Welcome to another edition of Dallas Social Toastmasters. This is almost a year since we've been doing things here on Zoom. And there are a few things that I want to go over with you as your Zoom facilitator for the evening before we begin the meeting. And the first thing is that if you are speaking, be sure that you're off mute. If you are finished speaking, go ahead and put yourself back on mute. If there are some distractions going on in the background, then be sure that you try to minimize those as possible. Mute if you have to. If you're a counter or posture monitor, you're welcome to go ahead and use those tools if you have them available to click and ding the bell throughout the meeting. However, again, if you have background noise, then please just go ahead and mute yourself. Just make sure that you take notes appropriately. And for our timer today is Cheryl Slagle. And what you'll want to do is make sure that you find Cheryl if you're going to be speaking, whether you're a prepared speaker, whether you're a topic speaker, or an evaluator. And you're going to find her, pin her to the screen. And you can do that by finding the three dots in the top right corner of her square, and then choose pin from there. That'll put her on the screen for you. You can also just make sure that she's on the screen. Either way is fine, as long as you can see her as she goes through and times you. If you have any issues throughout the meeting, I am going to be your Zoom facilitator. You can private chat to me, that's fine. Mark Schroeder will be back up to me, so you can also reach out to him if you don't hear back from me. Another thing that I want to do is to show our agenda for the evening before I hand this over to our Toastmaster. So let's see here. The agenda for the evening can be found on our website. That's DallasSocialToastmasters.com. And if you look under the members section, which is over toward the right, you'll see something that says current agenda. And if you click on that, then you're going to get the agenda for this evening. And you're welcome to leave that up, print it out if you have a printer readily available, but that's where you can find it and you can follow along throughout the meeting with that. So before we go ahead, I'm going to stop sharing that right now. Before we move over to the Toastmaster for the evening, I do want to provide for you a quote, hopefully a little inspirational, or at least motivational. Character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. Helen Keller. Keep that in mind as we go through this meeting and throughout the rest of the weekend. At this point, I want to hand the meeting over to our Toastmaster. Please help me welcome Mr. Mark Schroeder.
Thank you so much, Rob. Appreciate that great introduction and good information to start off our meeting. Tonight, I called the meeting theme Play to Your Strengths. I'm going to cover just a little bit of material from a couple of books. I'll hold them hopefully where they don't disappear too badly. One of them is called Go Put Your Strengths to Work. Whoops. Go Put Your Strengths to Work. If I have to, I will do something different with it. The other one is The One Thing You Need to Know. Both of these books are by a gentleman by the name of Marcus Buckingham. Marcus Buckingham is someone that I became familiar with through Toastmasters. Several years ago, he won the Golden Gavel Award from Toastmasters International for his work on leadership with one of these. It was probably, in fact, with a previous book to these two. It was First Break All the Rules. But they are very interesting books. They have some exceptional insight. And so I was going to go through just a few points of how you can play to your strengths. He is very much in favor of developing your strengths and only making your weaknesses, bringing them up to where they're no longer detrimental. Because it is so much easier to be strong in the things that you are already good at and improve your skills in the areas that you're already good at, versus trying to bring yourself up from the dregs of things that you really are awful at. That is, however, unfortunately, what a lot of training and a lot of things in work environments get focused around. It's you're not doing well enough in this, we need to make you better. Rather than you're doing great at this, we need to make you better. What I want to talk about tonight in particular, I'll give some personal examples and also some examples that are not particularly personal to me. But let me start with, we'll see how this works. I would normally have slides. I'll tell you, I would normally have tried to do slides, but I ended up with a battery problem, a car battery problem today, and that took a lot more time than I had expected for it to. So as a result, we're doing this one. What we're going to do is we're going to talk about FREE, F-R-E-E. Marcus, among other things, is very big into acronyms. He likes using acronyms a lot. So as you can probably guess, each one of these is going to have some relation to a word that will help you to, then FREE is the acronym to help you remember. FREE stands for focus. And focus, it's basically identify, oops, oh, please tell me that's not going to do that every time I leave it. Oh, there we go. Identify the strengths. Yeah, you get to see me type. You already have. So that's going to be one of the things. Hopefully I can move it just a teeny bit to get it a little better aligned. Wasn't expecting to have that problem, but it's going to be a problem. I was hoping I could go back into the original box. Doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do that. So with regard to focusing, for me, for instance, one of the things that I am pretty good at is I am a computer programmer. Recently, however, I got moved into a position where programming is no longer something that they're expecting me to do. And to be honest, I miss it. I always considered programming to be one of my strengths. Every time they wanted me to go into management, it was like, no, I don't think I'd be as good as a manager as I am as a programmer. I think my strengths are here and I make a much better contribution. With regard to this, identifying the strengths you already have, you may actually be surprised how often you get to use the strengths if you look at it. You may use them more in your job than you expect. So identify the strengths that you already have. That's one of the first steps. The second step that you need to consider is called, the R is for release. Release in this context means look for lost opportunities. Didn't indent. I should have done this almost with just the handwritten tool. Would have been a lot easier. Let me make it longer so that doesn't happen. There we go. Look for lost opportunities. No matter what you do for your job, there will be things that are opportunities that could have been missed, that you could have used your strengths. It is possible that there's someone or something that is actively preventing you from doing things that you're strong at because your job requires you to do different tasks. Okay. Sorry, I just had a text from Paul. He's also going to try to join us. But it's also possible that absolutely nothing is preventing you other than things like your own schedule, your time, the time that you have. Maybe there are meetings that you are attending that you don't really need to attend. That's another possibility. And in order to open yourself up, maybe there are other meetings that you could attend instead, things that would be more to your liking. That is something that has certainly come up for me. This morning I had a meeting, there was a meeting that I was not really going to be participating in so much as just sitting in on. It happened to start at 7:30. I didn't feel like getting up at 7:30 this morning. I decided, I knew the meeting was going to be recorded. I decided to time shift it the same way I would do with a DVR. I let them go ahead and do the meeting, waited until the recording came out, and decided I was going to watch it after that. I'm going to get the same amount of information and value. I may even be able to fast forward past the parts that I don't care about, just like on a DVR. But it allows me to spend more time doing the things that I am strong in. The third item would be educate. Oops. which would be great if I could spell better. With regard to education, that's going to be learning new skills to help you build the strengths you have. Stretch that out a little bit. There we go. So think of some examples of that. I am a computer programmer. They recently allowed us to take some extra classes that were on a couple of projects called Docker and Kubernetes, which are open source software products. I immediately signed up for those because I wanted to take those courses. And it basically improves my skills. It is true that often during our workday, we go where the pain is. And the pain is usually where you are doing poor performance. So instead of working on the poor performance areas and trying to get training there, get training at what you're good at. Volunteer for classes, talk to the people that are better than you. And so finally, the last one is expand. Yeah, let's move that just a teeny bit over. Expand is, again, it's building your job around your strength. So in this case, I'm a programmer who is no longer, come on, there we go. I'm a programmer who is no longer expected to program a lot. But every once in a while, there's a task that requires programming, or every once in a while, there's a task that programming could be suggested. We'd like to get this answer. We'd like to know this information. If programming is involved, I know a lot of the other people in my group are not up to it. They're not programmers. They're not versed in some of the same skills that I have. I volunteer for it. It gets me back into programming when otherwise I wouldn't be doing it. Let me give you just a few particular, for instances, from these before we go on to other parts of the meeting. There's an example of a person by the name of Heidi. Heidi was working for Hampton Hotels, which is part of the Hilton hotel chain. And one of her skills was working with people and working with managers. Her job was to bring up all of the numbers, all of the ratings from some of the other hotels in the chain. And what she would find is that there were a lot of people, a lot of the managers were not very receptive. They considered her a problem. They considered her something extra they had to deal with. But there were a few in the chain that really wanted to work with her and were really interested in the new programs that the corporate was rolling out, et cetera. Her job was to deal with all of them officially. She decided that she would be more effective by dealing with the ones that wanted to deal with her and ignoring the others. Now you say, can you do that? Well, that depends. There are parts of your job you can't ignore. If your job is as an accountant and you've got to get the quarterly budget done or the quarterly balance sheet done, that probably just what has to happen. But in her case, she had the flexibility of choosing who she worked with and who she worked with more. And she did end up working a lot more with the people that were interested with it, with having her there and having her use her skills and her advice to bring their hotels up. And she made all of those hotels be stellar in terms of the ratings that they got from the customers. And the others, well, they may have languished or they probably stayed about where they were, but she still got amazing kudos for the work that she did. And in some sense, she did a little bit of everything. She recognized where her strengths were. She found lost opportunities, which were working with the people who really cared to work with her. And she expanded her job to do that more often and do what she didn't like, which was having people not return her calls and having people be belligerent a lot less often. There's another, for instance, and this actually involves a manager. They were walking through a Walgreens and he was talking to one of the managers. He was really impressed with the way the Walgreens looked. All of the shelves were pretty immaculate. When you walk down the shelves, all of the aisles, the products were right at the front of the aisles, which is called facing. And so he was talking to her about that kind of thing. And this was a lady who had incredible insight into minor things. She said, sees a display of Gatorade, $1.69 a bottle. She goes, that's wrong. We got to fix it. What's wrong? Should be 2 for $3. People are much more likely to buy 2 for $3 than they are $1.69. We sell twice as much. We still make a profit on it. That's the way we ought to be advertising it. She had just an incredible eye for detail. And one of the things that she had done was she had hired a gentleman by the name of Jeffrey. So Jeffrey was a goth rocker, hair dyed black, completely shaved on one side, liked to wear jeans and chains, not particularly store presentable, but she hired him anyway. And it turns out he was really good at what's called resets and revisions. Resets is where they have to move everything around in a particular store from aisle to aisle, and just that's a reset. A reset is what happens like when you get to summer and you have to put all the sunscreens on the aisle. Revisions are when one new product comes out from a company, so they got to take maybe the old product off and put the new product out. It's a much more subtle change, a minor change. He was good at both, it turned out, but he really excelled at resets. And originally in the store, every person did their own aisle. So he did his aisle, resets and revisions. This other lady, Genoa, did her aisle. And quite frankly, when they walked down that aisle, it wasn't quite as good. There were things that were nice. The facing part was really nice. Everything was right up front, looked like everything had been moved to the foreground, everything completely visible, but she wasn't as fast on resets. The manager's decision was, I'm going to put Jeffrey in charge of resets across the entire store. Walgreens doesn't do that in general, but that's what she decided to do. It was a job he could do late at night, didn't have to necessarily be around customers, because you don't really want to be tearing your rails apart when customers are around. But she did that and put him in charge of that. And because of her skills at facing, she put Genoa in charge of doing the revisions, the stuff to just clean up the aisles and make sure everything was very presentable. And Genoa was also really great at customer service. And when a customer came in, being able to be helpful and ask what they needed and point them in the right direction to get what they needed. Gave her a lot of time to do that, more time to do that she was strong with. So overall, this was a win-win for Jeffrey, who otherwise might not have had a job, and he had a job that he was really great at. Genoa, who got to do all of her skills, then the things that she was very meticulous at. And she had 2 employees who were doing the best job they could and raised that store and the sales in that store and the customer satisfaction ratings of that store incredibly. Let me mention one other one about Expand, and then we'll go on to this one is going to be a personal one. I mentioned that I'm a programmer and I don't get to do it enough. We had a situation just a couple of weeks ago where my boss mentioned, kind of casually, when I got moved into this group takes care of customer problems. And we have some software that is able to automatically search for customer problems that we've already recognized. Once we know what it looks like, we can put some stuff in that says, when you send us a support dump, we can look for this and recognize it automatically. But it's only good if we put all of that information into the tool. Well, that's software. That's right up my alley. What she was asking everybody to do was, well, send the information to this other guy to go do it when you find something new. I decided I would make it easy for everybody to be able to do that, or send them to me, I don't care. But I was going to write some scripts and automate some of this to make that and the testing and everything else a little bit easier for everybody else. And I went off and did it, quite frankly, without even telling my boss that I was doing that. I only worked on it for 2 or 3 days to get a proof of concept up. But it was something that I was strong at, something that would allow me to make the job that I was doing, the job I wanted to be doing. And to me, it was a lot more interesting than what I otherwise do right now on a day-to-day basis. And I hope none of the people from my group see this recording. We'll worry about that later. But I really enjoyed doing it, and I'm feeding this stuff back into the group. And there was one example, a small example of taking the job that I have and trying to alter the job to be more in line with my strengths. And I've done that in a couple of other ways in a couple of other places. A lot of it involves just listening for what's out there and volunteering for what you want. Don't be the last person to volunteer for what's left over. Don't be the voluntold to do what's left over. If there's something you want to do, make sure you get it by volunteering first. So that's the free interview, the way of doing a program basically to improve the use of your strengths in your job, how often you get to do it, and how often you get to do things that you enjoy rather than doing the, as we refer to it, the scut work that nobody else wants to do. So remember that acronym: focus on the strengths you have, release, looking for other opportunities and places where you could have perhaps used your strengths. Educate by building your strengths even stronger than they are with classes or by talking to other people. And then, I know it's a tough thing to do, but convince and have conversations with your manager if necessary to change the job you have into the job you want and will be stronger. With that, we will go on with the next portions of our meeting. The next portion is going to be introduction to the duty holders. We're going to start with our timer duties this evening. Our timer is Karen Smith. Karen, tell us what you'll be doing tonight.
Hi, so fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. As timer, I will be helping the speakers practice expressing a thought within a specific time. My duty during this meeting is to time the prepared speeches, table topic speeches, and speech evaluations. The green card indicates minimum time. The yellow card is your targeted goal time. And the red card is your maximum goal time. And you have 30 seconds to finish up. For a 5 to 7 prepared speech, I will show the green card at 5 minutes, the yellow card at 6 minutes, and the red card at 7 minutes. And you have 30 seconds to finish up. For table topics, each speaker is encouraged to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. I will show the green card for 1 minute, the yellow for the 1 minute and 30 seconds, and the red at 2 minutes. And you have 30 seconds to finish up. For evaluators, you have 2 to 3 minutes. The green card is shown at 2 minutes, the yellow card at 2 minutes and 30 seconds, and the red card at 3 minutes, and you'll have 30 seconds to finish up. If you speak under time or over time by more than 30 seconds, you will be disqualified and will not be eligible for awards. However, for table topics, you must read at least 1 minute and no grace for that. I will report qualifying times when called upon throughout the meeting. Thank you, and back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Karen. All right, posture monitor this evening is Lee King. Lee, what will you be doing for us?
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters. I actually have 2 roles, posture monitor and grammarian, I believe. Yes.
So go ahead and do both of them, please.
Okay. Yes, I was going to say, I'll go ahead and start with posture monitor. So as posture monitor, I'll be looking for especially good, effective use of body language, as well as awkward uses of your body when you speak. It's a little bit harder on Zoom, but sometimes people still play with their hair and things like that. So I will keep an eye out for that and give a report at the end of the meeting. My other job as grammarian is to listen to the English language and pay close attention to particularly good uses of the English language and awkward uses of the English language. My final role as grammarian is to introduce the word of the day. And since our theme this evening has to do with building on your strengths, I decided the word for today will be assets, which is essentially your strengths. You will need to use the word asset, either your asset or assets, during table topics. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Lee. All right, our counter for the evening is Mark Sims. Mark, tell us what you'll be doing.
As I'll counter, I'll be listening for crutch words. Common words that we all use, but they detract from the quality of your message or from your presentation. I will make notes and then I will make a report to the group when called upon by the general evaluator. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. And finally, our vote counter for this evening is Cheryl Slagle. Cheryl, what is your duty tonight? You are on mute.
Hello. Hello, fellow Toastmasters and welcome guests. As vote counter, I will accept votes through the private chat to me and count the votes after the audience votes for best speaker, best table topic speaker, best evaluator, and the best of the big three. The big three are the Toastmaster, table topics master, and the general evaluator. I will record which person wins in each category. I will not cast a vote myself except in the case of a tie, in which case I will cast a vote to break the tie. However, I will not announce that there was a tie vote. Again, place your vote by sending me a message in private chat only to me. At the end of the meeting, I will announce the winners. You may also send comments to each speaker, evaluator, and table topics participant by sending private chat messages to the person directly. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. All right, the first section of our meeting will be the prepared speeches. We have two speakers tonight, Tanya Howard and Rob Giles. Tanya will be our first speaker and her evaluator is Mark Sims. Mark, what are Tanya's goals for this particular speech?
Tanya's speech is employee orientation, and this is speech aid in the communication manual. And she is wanting to use effectively for the aids to be clear and visible and to benefit her speech. So again, employee orientation, with the focus on visual aids. Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Mark. All right, with that, let me go ahead and introduce Tanya. Tanya will be doing a 5 to 7 minute speech this evening for the benefit of our timer. Tanya and Rob, both please remember that you must have Karen Smith visible for your timing of flags, whether you have gallery mode set or pin her as the main person on your screen. Everyone, please welcome Tanya Howard with her speech, Employee Orientation. Employee Orientation, Tanya Howard.
Good afternoon. My name is Tanya Howard, and I am the Chief of Leadership Development, and I would like to welcome you to our team. In our orientation this afternoon, I want to spend time sharing with you some strategies that will help you to successfully transition to our organization. Our focus today is on professionalism. We believe that this is the foundation that skills and talents as well as our assets are built on. And the first strategy for success is being on time. It's important that you're courteous and considerate of other people's times. Our goal is to start meetings on time, end on time, and not waste your time. We know everyone's time is valuable, and we understand that there are circumstances that come up, but it shouldn't be a consistent thing. So being on time is very important. Work ethic, doing what's right because it's the right thing to do. Taking care of your business, doing your job. That's why we get paid. So our goal is for you to take care of your business and not to have someone to babysit adults. That's not something that we're really interested in doing. We know how to do that, but that would not be fun for you or for us. So we just want to make sure that everyone knows to take care of their business. We're here to help. Effort, doing your best work, putting forth your best effort to do your job. If you need help and support, that's why we're here. We're a team to help support and to grow each other. But the goal is to put forth your best effort, to give it your all, and really do 100% on a regular basis. Energy. John Gordon, who wrote The Energy Bus, he says, fill your tank with positive energy so that the negative energy won't have any room. And so our goal is to come to work ready to work every day, showing that positive energy, because we know that positive people who put forth positive effort will in actuality render positive results. And so we want to make sure that we're all working together as a team and putting forth our best energy, that positive energy. Body language. Sometimes it's not what you say, it might be how you say. So we're really wanting to make sure that we're all aware of how we present ourselves, not just to our coworkers, but especially to our customers, and that we're really presenting forth that professional image, and that we're engaged in meeting with our customers and with each other. The words that we use when it comes to communication is a very small percent of what people actually hear. Sometimes it's the tone or how we say it, and then how we come across. And so just creating the awareness that we need to be mindful of what our body language communicates to others around us. Passion. You have to remember, why did you accept this position? There was something that you were excited about in joining this organization, and we hope that you will continue to bring that energy and that passion to work on a regular basis. And when it's something that you're passionate about, it almost doesn't seem like work. You look forward to coming and doing that job, and you're excited and happy to even be getting paid. And so I'm just wanting to remind everyone that remember your why you decided to join this organization, to do this good work, and really bringing that good passion every day. There's a saying that weak desire brings weak results. And so we really want to put forth our good energy and passion on a daily basis. Doing that extra. That's important, to do more than people expect, going that extra mile and putting forth in that extra effort. It might not be your job, but if you see an opportunity, take the initiative and people will notice. It might be a situation where you see that there's a problem or concern, bring it forward and even offer a solution. Sometimes people aren't aware, or we just need to come together to solve that problem. And so putting forth that extra effort is going to be so important. Being prepared on a daily basis. Plan your work so you can work your plan. Be ready on a regular basis to get the job done. Being coachable. That's so important that we continue to learn and grow in our craft and be willing to be coached, or we want leaders in our organization who are willing to coach others. We're hoping that everyone has something to bring to this organization, which is why we hired you. And so we're all in this together to learn and grow in our craft. And so please be mindful that we want to continue to get better. And of course, attitude. Remember, attitude is a choice. And so we really want to make sure that we're bringing forth our attitude for work every day that's a positive influence, and we make a positive impact on the others around us. Are there any questions? I look forward to working with this team. We know we hired the best candidates, and I look forward to working with you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to stop by. Thank you so much, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Tanya. I thought it was interesting, particularly when you hit passion, because passion, you were talking about what you love, doing what you love. It's also, it goes back to Marcus Buckingham again. One of the studies, because he was a member of the Gallup organization. And there's a Gallup poll that says less than 1 in 5 people has a job that they actually love and get to do something that they love every day or almost every day. And that's unfortunate for everybody else. Work is a 4-letter word. For some people, it is not. And I'm fortunate that for the most part, work is not a 4-letter word for me. Our second speaker tonight is going to be Rob Giles. Rob's evaluator is Karen Lee. Karen, tell us about Rob's speech and his goals tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. Rob's goals tonight are to learn and review basic research methods and deliver a well-organized, well-researched speech on any topic. His time goal is 5 to 7 minutes. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
All right, thank you so much. Just as a quick note again to our timer, 5 to 7 minutes, although I'm sure you heard that. If you would, please welcome our next speaker, Rob Giles, with his speech entitled B117. B117, Rob Giles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster, fellow members and guests. B117. How many of you are familiar with B117? Anybody? Raise of hands. No? Okay. Although it sounds a lot like a Star Wars droid, B117 is one of the mutations of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. It actually is something that has become a little bit more prevalent recently, and don't want to be here tonight to be dramatic and create some sort of panic, but I do want to inform you, and I do want to let you know that there are some good things that can counter this. So let me start off with telling you that it was first detected, many of you probably know, in the United Kingdom. And during that time, the US was going through their initial stages of vaccination, our first responders and such. But the UK was beginning to be inundated with this particular variant, B117, of the coronavirus, or from the coronavirus. Now, since that time, this virus or strain, this variant, B117, has actually come to the United States. It's also come to Canada, and I believe that there probably are a few other countries out there where it has showed up. There are some other strains out there that are various, but this is the one that I want to talk to you about. Right now, the virus is in 34 of our United States. It started off with a man in Colorado who was 20 years old, so young. He contracted it. He wasn't even trying. He wasn't traveling. He wasn't out of the state or anything like that. And he still contracted that disease. Now he's recovered, thankfully, but this has become something that has spread, like I said, to 34 states, and it likely, according to the CDC, will spread throughout the country. And that's not too much of a surprise, I would say, from all of our experience over the past year. But this particular strain has a much more rapid spread and transmission. It's more contagious. There was even some thought that it actually is more contagious to children. So it's something that we really have to think about. Back in January, the CDC warned about this B117 variant and saying that this particular variant could become the dominant strain of this coronavirus. Now, the states right now that have it, 34, the ones that have the most cases at this point, California, Florida. So a couple of the states, obviously, where the population is big, where you have people coming into the state, probably more so than you might have for some of the other states in the United States. But the cases are expected to increase across the board. I do want to say that this particular mutation of the coronavirus has some that actually affect the protein spike on the virus. And that's the thing that actually latches on to human cells. According to Dr. Stanley Weiss at the Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School, there are 6 key mutations for this B117 virus. And that is one of them, changes to the spike that could be something that is allowing it to transmit more quickly and to be more contagious. Now, the United Kingdom's Government Science Advisory Group say that this might be associated, or the variant might be associated with an increased risk of death. That is compared to the other strains of this particular, of the coronavirus, other strains of the coronavirus. So something, again, to keep in mind, not that we didn't already have our share of all of these horrible things the past year, like I said, but one thing that you can kind of hang your hat on, and there are some assets that we have, the symptoms don't really appear to be any different than the original novel coronavirus. So if you have these symptoms, you may have one or you may have the other, but the thing is, make sure that you take that into account. Don't think like with a lot of my friends and people that I've heard about where they have the virus or they think they had the virus and they went about their lives as if they had the normal flu or anything like that. With this new strain, you probably have to be a little bit more diligent in that regard because, like I said, the actual symptoms are similar. And this is really something that can only be determined whether you have the original or whether you have this new strain by testing, according to a professor at the University of Buffalo, Mr. Thomas Russo. So you have to be tested to know exactly which one you have. So if you start having symptoms, go get tested. London School of Hygiene estimated that this particular strain is over 50% more contagious than the original strain. It was passed, the original strain was actually passed on to about one person per infected person. But the variant B117, that's increased to 1.5. So you can see that basically a 50% increase right there for the most part. According to the BBC, this particular strain was first detected in September of 2020. But by the end of the first week or into the second week of December, they think that it was confirmed as responsible for over 60% of the entire coronavirus cases. So again, there are some hints like it could be more infectious, spread more quickly, and might even affect children a little bit more. And that data came from United Kingdom as well, from their new and emerging respiratory virus threats group. But I don't want you to look at all of this information and have your eyes glaze over. We've all been through the struggles. We've persevered. There's been some deaths, sicknesses, illnesses, but we have persevered. And again, there are some good news, good assets that we have. Moderna and Pfizer, they're saying that their vaccines are going to be 95 or up to 95% effective against this new strain. Novavax reports up to 80%, 86% against the new strain. We know what to look for. Similar to the original novel coronavirus. And what can we do beyond that? All the same things. Wear a mask. Wash your hands. Socially distant yourselves. So do those things, and this can help you to avoid or minimize your chances of getting this. And also keep it in your head so that you can take it a little bit more seriously when somebody may have these symptoms. I appreciate you listening, and I hope that this has enlightened you, but also put you ahead of the game. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Rob. Interesting and informative. I have to admit, I have wondered myself if measles is more or less than in terms of transmissibility than B117. Dr. Fauci listed measles as the most infectious thing you could imagine, and COVID was bad. This one's obviously worse than the original strain. Best advice: when in danger, when in doubt, run in circles, scream and shout. All right, we got to do timing goals on everyone. Timer, how did our two speakers do tonight on their timing goals?
Both qualified. Ms. Tanya Howard did 6 minutes and 21 seconds, and Mr. Rob Giles did 7 minutes and 27 seconds.
7:27, excellent job. All right. So since both of our speakers have qualified on time, that means both are eligible for a vote tonight. If you would, they're going to cast your votes in the private chat, going directly to Cheryl. That's Cheryl Slagle. Feel free to cast your votes that way. If you happen to be a guest tonight, you are welcome to vote as well. So please do so. I'll give everybody just a minute. And while y'all are voting, I'd like to welcome, just briefly, we have Chief Judge Linda Green with us tonight from D50. Welcome, Linda. We have returning member Baloo Thomas, and we have returning guests E. Paul, and we have a new guest, Taylor Wall. Thanks to all of you for coming tonight. All right, I think that may be enough time for people. If you need more time, feel free to also submit comments, what you liked, things that you saw as missed opportunities for each of our speakers as well. We love getting comments as to how we performed. The next section of our meeting is going to be table topics, and table topics is going to be run by Dagan Newland. Dagan.
All right, thank you, Mark. So as table topic masters, I come up with some questions, and I will, say my question, then I'll pick on somebody to answer the question. And the time frame on that, once again, is 1 to 2 minutes. But then you get out to 2 minutes, you have 30 seconds to wrap it up. So technically 1 minute to 2 minutes, 30 seconds, but you must hit that 1 minute mark. There is no grace period at the beginning on table topics. And again, you must use the word of the day, which is right here above my head to remind you. So I added it to my background for you. And, I'm going to, this based on his theme, I came with some questions. They're probably a little bit harder than I normally get questions. So I'm going to go ahead and give the question first to give y'all, a few seconds to maybe think about it. Then I will call upon y'all. And I do have some questions. I may repeat some of them, but my first question is, what is your biggest strength and why? Now, for me, my biggest strength is my got the word, but basically just me, because the way I am, I like to be truthful and everything. So that's my biggest asset. So, what is your biggest strength, Cheryl
Slagle.
Slagle? And why?
Am I just picking one?
Well, you pick Cheryl if you want to.
I'm just kidding. But after listening to Tanya's presentation, I was writing everything down and hoping that those were my strengths as well. And I do feel that I have many of those strengths, thankfully. I think my biggest strength is listening. I'm a very good listener, and I am able to read people and react accordingly in a situation, really in all situations, I feel like. So I use listening to an advantage of learning and also in responding. So I think my biggest strength is listening. It's one of my biggest assets. I do feel like I have some other strengths though. Being on time, I am very passionate about everything that I do, or else I don't like to do it if I'm not passionate about it. I have a good attitude. I have a willingness to learn new things, and I don't feel like anything is too big or too small. So I think I have lots of assets. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you, Cheryl. My next question is, what do you consider good strengths of a leader? So what good strengths do you consider of a leader? Leaking.
Good evening, fellow Toastmasters and guests. The one asset that I think a leader must have is the ability to delegate to other members of the team. Because while there are many important assets to being an effective leader, if a leader can't really delegate his or her parts of his responsibility to other people, then it becomes hard to complete the project. So definitely being able to delegate, being able to let go of your responsibilities and having the ability to trust other people are all very important. The only other thing that I think a leader must have is they must be honest, even if information they have to share is not the most desirable. Being able to honestly communicate with their team members is also important. So the two most important things would definitely be delegating and being honest. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
All right, thank you, Lee. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Leaders, you must be able to delegate, because otherwise, if you're always trying to do things with them, you can't be able to do things as a leader should be able to do if they're not delegating, because they won't have the time. They have to be able to trust people, just like you said, to be able to help you with the project. All right, so my next question is going to be, when you build up one of your weaknesses to a strength, you have to keep on it, basically just keep working on it, or can you just, let it go by the wayside and it'll stay a strength for you? And that question is going to go to John Vessels.
Thank you, Mr. Table Topics Master. I think once you move a weakness into the strength category, it becomes something that you don't have to work out nearly as hard. It's like developing like a muscle memory. Once you exercise enough or do something routinely enough, it becomes a habit. And that weakness you had that you replaced with a strength now becomes just a strength, because you're so used to doing it that way that you automatically move to that way of handling it, because you've changed your patterns. So I think that is a pretty good asset. If you can change all your weaknesses to strengths, then they become second nature to you. You don't have to think about it every time that you do something. Am I being weak on this, or is this my strength? One of the things about delegation that we talked about tonight, if you don't delegate anything, you're not really leading anything. You're just doing all the work. So you're not a leader. You're just doing it. So delegation, I think, is one of the big things about being a leader, and knowing what to delegate to which people to work on their strengths. Back to you, Mr. Table Topics Master.
Thank you, John. It's kind of like the old adage, you do something every day for 21 days and it becomes a constant thing. So yes, I definitely agree with that. And my next question or thought is going to be, we look at the certain people sometimes to their strengths. So what is an asset, strength that you've learned from somebody that you look up to or have looked up to in the past, and maybe convert it into one of your strengths? Linda Green. You're on mute. So
Thank you, Dagan. Thank you for that. How did I know that when you said that you were going to call my name? I could just feel it in my bones. A person that I look up to a lot is my husband, Donald. He is an engineer and he sees things in a different light. I can see something, I'll see X and he'll see Y, and he can tell me why it's a Y. And I'll tell you, one of the first things that I saw him do that I will do to this day if I get in a situation. He knows how to move things that weigh a whole lot more than he can carry. I watched him put something big on a blanket or a throw that he could not move, but he could pull the blanket, and he pulled the blanket to where he wanted the item to go. So the next time I went shopping, I bought a box of dishes that I could not carry, but I remembered seeing him do what he did. I could pick it up out of the trunk and get it to the ground, but that is about as far as I could go with it. So what I did was I just followed in his footsteps and I just dragged that box on the blanket all the way up to my front porch. And it's those types of things that he does that are second nature to him because of the way he sees the world. But I pay attention and I glean from him when I can. Mr. Table Topics Master.
thank you, Linda. That's definitely an excellent example of that question. Appreciate that. So I'm going to go to one more question. I'm going to revert back to my original first question. If you remember that, what that was, which is, what is your biggest strength? And that question is going to go to our Toastmaster, Mark Schroeder.
Really, what is my biggest strength? I'm not even sure that I know what my biggest strength is. If it were, okay, if I will tell you what the strength tests tell you though. So you have to believe them, and I suspect they're probably right. One of them is the analytical ability that I have. The ability to take a problem and analyze a problem, figure out what's going on with it, or figure out what's going on in a situation, and be able to determine, whatever, basically build a model, if you will, for the situation, so that I can then figure out how to interact with the true situation, the physical situation, or whatever it is, in the way that it can be modeled. That would probably be one of the assets that I have that is very strong, and it has always, it's been something that has been with me for a very long time. I wish I had some other attributes and other strengths. The one that I really wanted to have, and I don't feel that I have, is charisma. Charisma is something that escapes me. And the reason I bring it up is you asked the question, have you actually tried to learn things from others? The previous CEO of one of my companies has just this amazing charisma, the same kind of charisma that like a Bill Clinton or someone like that has, that just everybody wants to be around him. Everybody loves him. It would go through hell for him. And I actually talked to him at one point. I said, I really want to know, have you always had this? Because he came up from the engineering ranks the same way that I did. And so it shouldn't have been innate to him. It should have been something that he had to learn. And I asked him, how did he get that? Did he get it through practice? Did he get it through another mentor? Did he get it through his family? The answer that I got was not particularly helpful to me personally, because he said he got it through his family, through his mother, and that his mother had always ingrained that in him. But I have gone out and tried to look at what I wanted as a strength, something I didn't feel that I had. Because if I had both the analytical ability and the charisma, I think I would probably be in a much better place in life. And those would be two assets that would be real pluses for me right now. Back to you.
All right, thank you, Mark. So that's going to be in the table topic section of the meeting. So I will now call upon a timers report. Did everybody qualify on time, Karen?
So qualified except for our table topics master, Mr. Mark Schroeder. He went 2 minutes and 49 seconds.
Yeah, I was afraid of that.
All right, thank you, Karen. And did everybody
You're
use
so
the
welcome.
word of the day, Lee?
I believe I did not hear it from John or Linda, but everyone else did.
Did anybody say otherwise?
I said asset. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry, I missed it. I don't think I heard it from Linda though.
You are correct.
Okay. All right, so please take your time to send your votes to Cheryl, the best speaker, the best table topic speaker, which would be Lee, Cheryl, or John. I'll take a minute to do that, and from there, I will call upon Mark or John. Mark or?
Go directly to John, please.
Okay. All right, we'll call upon our general evaluator, John Vessels.
Yay. Thank you, Dagan. So I'm going to be the general evaluator for the evening, and the role of our evaluation portion of the meeting is to look back at our performances this evening and evaluate them and give us some critiques, helpful critiques. We're not vicious people trying to put everybody down. We're constructive and want you to learn from what you've done, and that's what the evaluation portion of our meeting is about. I'll start tonight with our evaluators of the speeches, and the first one is going to be Mark Sims, and he's going to evaluate Tanya's speech. So, Mr. Sims, will you go for it?
He looks frozen.
He has frozen a couple of times this evening. It is possible.
Maybe we should skip to the next one and see if he comes back. Well, you're on mute, John.
Karen, are you ready to go ahead and do your evaluation while we're waiting for Mark Sims to unfreeze? Unmute yourself. Karen, there you go.
Okay. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters and honored guests, and especially Rob, you did excel at the fact that you qualified on time. Your speech was very well researched. You also did give us several references in your speech. The one area that I would like for you to work on is you held some object in your, I see in your right hand, a black object. And I did notice that when you were using your gestures, which are good, I kept noticing the black object that was in your right hand. So I thought of it as a distraction. So you might want to consider putting the black object down. I'm not real sure what the purpose of the object was. I would only hold the objects unless if it was a prop for your speech. You also used good gestures in your speech. You stood up and used the good gestures. I did notice that your camera was positioned in a well so that I could see you throughout your speech. You looked at the camera. eye contact was not all over the place. And also, just to reiterate, you did a good job looking at the camera. You did also engage the audience by asking the audience if they had ever heard of this B117. I had never heard of it. So I learned something new. I didn't know that the mutation, I don't know if there's more than one mutation, but this mutation that started in England was called this B117. And I didn't know that it was so prevalent in the United States. So thank you for this very enlightening speech. Just to summarize in conclusion, your speech was very well researched. You used great gestures. And your camera was positioned well. Back to you, Mr. General Evaluator.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen. And Mark Sims is moving, so he's not in the icebox anymore. So let's go. Mark, you are going to evaluate Tanya's speech tonight. So will you present that for us, please, sir?
Yes, thank you. And Tanya, me cutting out was not an editorial comment on your speech, because your speech was excellent. And for starters, I'll go over the good points where you excelled. You managed to make employee orientation interesting, which is not easy to do because we've probably all sat in on those first day meetings, and a few minutes into it, just wish they were over with. You got off to a good, fast, brisk introduction, which is important because no long drawn out stories or non-relevant issues, straight to the point. Unfortunately, that was an occasion where for a couple of minutes, my internet was out. So if you noticed that I went away at that time, you handled it very well, because when I came back on, you had continued speaking as if nothing had happened. And where I picked up was on the slide on body language. And from there, the next several slides that I saw were excellent. The slides had a lot of great substance, something for us all to remember, even if we've heard some of these things before, such as body language. It is more important at times. Let's say, even if I said something nice to you, if my arms were crossed and I was frowning, it would totally negate the purpose. You reminded us of the importance of passion, doing what you love, going the extra mile, being coachable, attitude. And so these slides, the information you communicated, focused on personal attributes as opposed to some arcane company acronyms or some rules, regulations, forms, things like that. It was on something we could all relate to, and something that's so important because it's ultimately ourselves, our personalities, our traits that are going to determine if we succeed or fail. Also, the slides were not overloaded, and that's important because I've seen some slides and I made some slides so busy, so much stuff that it's hard to figure them out, but your slides were clean and they had nice little graphics such as the coachable slide. So you definitely achieved your goals of using visual aids very effectively, and your purpose was being very clear and conducting an excellent employee orientation. As far as what you could work on, there's not a lot. I did count a couple of us, I think 3 us or ums. And a challenge, maybe something to add on to that very good job you already did, is your ending was concise, but you could have quickly summed up. And if you have passion, if you go the extra mile, if you're coachable, if you have a great attitude, you'll be a success in this company. And then I look forward to working with you. So that's for your consideration. Excellent speech. I greatly enjoyed what I got to see of it. Mr. General Evaluator.
Hey. Thank you, Mark. Now, I wanted to make a couple of comments real quick, and that is, well, really just one. Tanya, you didn't open up with my fellow Toastmasters and guests or anything, that you ran straight into the orientation like we were in the orientation, and I really like that. You didn't bother to introduce your orientation speech. You just walked in there like we were all going to get the orientation, and that's what you did. And I really like that. I think that was great. Now, I'd like to move on to our duty holders. And our first duty holder tonight is going to be Lee King, and he was grammarian and posture monitor. So, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Karen, yeah, timers report. Did my evaluators qualify on time?
Yes, both evaluators are qualified on time.
All right, thank you. So we do need to take a moment and vote by private chat to Cheryl, who you thought did the best job of evaluating this evening, whether it was Karen Lee or Mark Sims. And I'd like to move on next to our duty holders reports. And we were going to start with Lee King, who is our posture monitor and our grammarian. So take it away, Lee.
Right. As far as posture, I did not see any awkward uses of posture, all pretty good, except for the couple of things that were pointed out in the prepared speech evaluations. Also, as far as word of the day, it was pretty much only used during table topics, although I didn't notice any other awkward uses of the English language. At the same time, nothing really stuck out in my mind either. So overall, great job this evening. Back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you. Our other duty holder was our R counter, and our R counter, I'm sorry, was who? I forgot. Mark
It was
Sims.
me, John.
Thank you.
Welcome. I noted in Tanya's speech again, a few us. Dagan noted one I, so you repeated I, a couple of you knows, a few us. Cheryl, in your table topics, I noted a couple of long so's. And so can sometimes be very appropriate. Sometimes it can be a type of a filler word. And John Vessels noted just as you, I think, started to introduce the duty holders. And that is my report.
Thank you, Mark. Then we'll look on to the general evaluation of some points of the meeting that I wanted to point out. Mark Schroeder, good table topics or good topics for this evening. Knowing your strengths. You gave us a lot of good information. I thought personally it was just maybe a little long, or maybe could have broken it up between the very beginning and then let the speaker speak, and then, you know, kind of did a wrap up on your personal story, something like that. Well, so I was right. No, I'm just teasing. So, but it was great information and everything.
Yeah, I have to admit, just real quick, I thought about, you can't break up free. You don't really want to do fur and then go do something and then come back and do e. But yeah,
Well,
it was too long. It was too long.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you could have presented the 4 points and then presented maybe your story, or
Yeah,
the first story and then done your personal story after the speeches, or just, you know, anyway, just a thought.
No, you're right.
Okay, thank you. Table topics. Dagan, you worried about your speech or about the topics being too difficult. And I think they weren't difficult at all for us tonight. If this were a cold meeting, like, you know, you're sitting there, you walk into the boss and he wants to know what your strength is, I mean, immediately get flustered and you don't have an answer. But all of our theme this meeting and all the stuff Mark presented, and even both of our speeches were pretty much on kind of leadership and that stuff. I think it warmed everybody up to all the table topic questions you had, and I think they were just perfect. And everybody had answers for it, and it didn't stump anyone. So I don't think they were too difficult, only because we were all kind of prepped for it this evening with our things, and I think that fit in really well and it worked out great. I do like at the very beginning when you were talking about how topics went, you said you were going to pick on someone, and pick on someone to me goes back to like the days when we were kids and we were bullies and stuff, but I thought it was fun in a funny way. I didn't think it was, I'm going to pick on somebody, you know. But that's the way you said it, I thought was funny and entertaining. I kind of got a little just a kick out of that. Just go pick on somebody. Yeah. Anyway, so I thought that was great too. So now I'm going to move on to the vote for the best of the big three. Now our big three tonight were, of course, Mark Schroeder, our table Toastmaster, gone twisted tonight. Dagan Newland, our table topics master, or myself as general evaluator. So let's go on to that and take a minute and go vote. If you have any comments, you can always private email comments to the person that you want to share them with. And now I'd like to move us on to our business meeting by our president, Mr. Sims.
John, did
Yes.
you have any comments for the evaluators that you wanted to make?
No, y'all are good.
Okay.
You could have gone beyond that, said excellent, amazing, you know, went on several minutes, John. But hey, okay, some days I'll take you were good.
Well, you were froze, so once you thought out it. No.
False flattery is always good. I gladly accept it.
Thank you.
This is our business meeting, and what we definitely want to do is recognize the guests that we have. We're very pleased to have you. And Taylor, would you just tell us a little about yourself and what brought you here? What can Toastmasters do for you?
Sure. Okay, so first, hi everyone. Thanks for having me tonight. My name is Taylor. So I'm an engineer, and I've been in my current role for about 2 years. And so one of my developmental goals for this year is to work on effective communication. And so that's why I am joining Toastmasters tonight, and I'm excited to develop my communication skills. Thanks again for having me, guys.
Thank you. And that makes perfect sense. Strong technical skills, strong communication skills definitely sounds like a formula for success. So please do come back. We'd love to have you as a member, and it always helps us to bring in new faces, new perspectives. Hopefully it helps you, definitely helps us. So we like very much for you to come back and visit us again. And also, we have a returning guest tonight, E. Paul. Hadn't seen you in a few weeks. Is anything else new you want to tell us about yourself or your about the meeting tonight, your impressions?
Great meeting as always. Sorry I couldn't make it to the last couple. Just had a little too much going on at work, but I was talking to Rob about getting the registration stuff taken care of, so hopefully I can actually join you guys. But yeah, I mean, I always enjoy, you know, observing, and you know, hopefully in the future I can do a little bit more active participating. Thanks for having me as always.
Thank you. And definitely, yeah, that is wonderful. We definitely like to have you as a member, and we get sometimes guests that we wonder, okay, wow, you're already a pretty good speaker and you're already a fluent speaker. So definitely look forward to having you as a member. And Linda Green is visiting us tonight, District 50 Chief Judge, which sounds very important. So, Linda, just anything else? Is there anything you want to tell us? What brings you here? Definitely glad to have you here tonight.
Hi, I'm Linda Green, as you said, and I used to be the area director for this club, and it was just always one of my favorite clubs, and I think of you guys often, and I'm really, really busy, and I keep trying to get back, but my home club meets on Thursday nights as well. But I just took that opportunity to dip in and see what you guys were doing. I've had a great time. Thank you for having me. And it's been great to see you guys.
Thank you. That's very nice of you to skip your own home club for us tonight. So please do come back as much as you can, but we understand if everything hits on Thursday nights, you have to just do the best you can. Thanks for being here tonight. And one thing I want to bring up, before I go to the next point, Taylor, you saw us all during the meeting doing this. That's the best we can do for applause right now. With everyone muted, that's the best way we can support the speakers, support the table topic contestants, the duty holders, without unmuting ourselves and then awkwardly applauding over Zoom. But do want to remind everyone, we've got a club contest on March the 4th. And I'm going to be the contest master, and Rob, this weekend, I'm going to break out that contest master script you sent me, start reviewing that, getting ready. But I'm interested, do we have any contestants yet?
As of right now, I'm not aware of any contestants. So if anybody would like to participate in either table topics or international speech contest, then please let me know as soon as possible. It's always great to have multiple people participating in each of the contests. Table topics, you only need to be a paid member and then have to have a little bit of courage. As far as the international speech contest, again, you do need some of that courage as well. Step out there, stretch yourself. But you do also have to have either completed 6 speeches from the old legacy or traditional program, or with our new Pathways program, have completed both levels 1 and level 2 in your path. So those are the qualifications. Otherwise, we will need to have people manning all of the positions, all of the duties for the contest. And I'll be reaching out to people, but please consider it. And don't be surprised if you get a private email from me asking you if you want to participate as one of the contestants. Thanks, Mark.
And Rob, you can go ahead and put me down for table topics. I don't know if I'll have time to put together international or not, but I can do table topics for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, and absolutely. We need contestants because we want to make the contest for us fun, and also we want to have a representative to send on to the future levels of competition and see how far you can go in that arena. And I want to note to our guest that, of course, as Rob, I think, had pointed out, we've been doing this on Zoom for our best part of a year now, but our physical location is a nice room with a stage at Azona's Grill and Bar. It's probably going to be a while before we can go back there because it seems like the pandemic news is still discouraging. That is ultimately the goal, when it's safe, to be able to meet in person. So you have that to look forward to, that we eventually will have a great stage, great room to go back to. And I'd like to see, does anyone have any other business to bring up?
Mark?
Yes.
You can go ahead and put me down for table topics contest as well.
Okay. There we go, Rob. We've got a competition on the table topics, at least. So that's good. We need that. So also, you potential speakers, please consider what you can speak on. And
does this have to be an inspirational type of speech? Or did you say you can speak on anything, Rob? Okay.
That's correct. Yes, it can be on anything. The ones that end up moving on to win are almost always motivational or inspirational. But no, it can be humorous. It can be whatever you want.
Okay.
And you could compete in both of the contests, with the table topics and the speakings, Karen. So go for it. Dagan, what did you have to bring up?
Most everybody's reminder of dues coming up. Our next 6-month rotation starts at the beginning of April. So dues are going to be due. So I'll be sending out the invoices to our current members for that over the next few days.
Yeah, thank you. That's essential because we want as many people as possible to renew. We want to rebuild the membership, get back up to 20 in order to be on the goal to be a distinguished club. And a lot of clubs, I believe, have been struggling during this pandemic. So we want everyone to renew and then definitely like bringing on additional members. And does any other member have any issue to bring up? And seeing heads shaking no, I'd like to ask our vote counter on who the winners were in the various competitions.
The best speaker was Tanya Howard. Best table topic speaker was Cheryl Slagle. Best evaluator, Mark Sims, and best of the big three, John Vessels. Back to you, Mr. Are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, I thought he was frozen.
I think he
Move,
is.
Mark.
Mark
And
does.
frozen, I can see no lips moving, but I hope that you can hear me and
We can
Yeah.
hear you, Mark, but
Yeah.
your video is gone.
Oh, now I can't hear him.
All right. Anyway,
We'll conclude this session. So take it away, Toastmaster. Or close it.
Yeah, just real quick. So Mark, you're gone, correct?
Yeah. he's
Yeah, I
gone.
don't hear it. I don't
yeah,
hear
he's
Mark.
awesome.
It sounded like we were done with all of the business,
Yes.
at least unless I will go ahead and ask one last time if anyone has any other business that we have to do tonight. I'm not technically supposed to be running this part of the meeting because I'm not the right officer to be doing it. But if we're done, we're done.
All right.
Okay, I think we are done. Thank you, everyone, for coming. We will stop the recording in 3, 2,